basically just squeeze it together, pop it in, and it goes around like a tumble dryer. Bit of scarring there. Just gonna keep honing until that's as clean as I can get it. What I'm talking about. Nice to get that all pretty cleaned up. Today we're going to be looking at some measurements. We've got the head off, got the barrels, got the valves out. Now we're checking for play because we want to start to work out what we need to replace. We're using Norman White's restoration manual. Very helpful when it comes to details. So now we're going to check the diameter of these pistons. If you get a clearance excess of more than 1.52, then these pistons will require replacement. You measure the skirts rather than the top, for those that don't know, because it tapers open, and part of the reason for it tapering open is the heat that's generated at the top of the piston expands and contracts more than the bottom. Okay, we have to read up about that, whether that's going to need a new replacement. To take the gudgeon pin out, you need one of these, a piece of pipe, preferably some brass if you can, or even aluminium would be better. You take both circlips out. You put in a bolt. You can grind off the end as long as it can fit through, okay? That comes up against the gudgeon pin. It mustn't slip through, okay? You put that on. You put that on. You put it could be a washer, it could be anything, just to stop that from the bolt from going through, and you screw that down. And as you screw that down, it pulls the gudgeon pin out. I'm sure there are a lot of builders out there who've taken the engines apart and it's not seized and the barrel is okay, pistons look all right, but you want to know whether it's worth putting that all back in again. When they call it a standard bore, it means that's the bore that the motorcycle came with out of the factory. So there's a few steps of size increments that you can get and pistons to match, but your engineering firm will know all about that. So I've measured this at 73.025, so it's literally has no wear on this. Then the next thing is to measure the piston. So once you've taken the piston out, you're going to measure the width. Now, I strongly suggest that you don't use these. It's late, serenaded by the one and only Stevie Ray Vaughan. Some say it was just a copy of Hendrix. No. There we go. Get up. Yeah. What I'm going to have is a whole bunch of loose little ball bearings coming out of there. You can see on the new one there's a taper. By screwing in that top cap, you dislodge it from its grip, and also any rust or any marks here that are gripping down here at the pinch bolt will start to come free. So it looks a bit brutal, but with rusty forks, this is the only way to get them off. The next thing I'm going to do is remove this isoelastic system. As you can see, it's pretty grubby. Firstly, there's a tiny bit of play in the swing arm. It's marginal, but you know, I'm going to do a proper job on this. So I'm going to have to find a way to drift that out. Do a bit of reading on that. Now I need to get something big enough to be able to drift that out and knock it out. And the question is, do I need to replace these rubbers? Now, what you will see here most definitely is that how off-center that is. You see how it's leaning to one side. That's an indication of wear on its own. So that's going to have to be replaced. This is sheared out. Man, that's so hard in. You can see what's going on inside. It's pretty much seized. Racing against time. It's always the end of the day. You need a special tool that locks into this pin, but I managed to get it out with that, gently tapping it. So that, again, more money on tools that you only use once or twice. That was in tight, really tight, but it's out now. All that bearing's gone. That's seized. That's alright, little fella. We're gonna get you absolutely sparkling, shiny clean. Now that I've got this working, see what is seized in here, what isn't. Right, to get that bearing out, because there's no access to it on this side, is that. So that really works. Just weld it in. And so this is what you find when you give these things a good clean. One tooth missing. So the bath really did well for the casing. It's got most of it off. You can see this, it looks like it's road tar, years of old road tar. See the gearbox number clearly matching the frame and the engine, so that's nice. So there's a few bits to buy. One gear, all the bearings are seized, and need to give all these a clean up and take some of the early rust off. But yeah, on the whole, big job done. I'm glad to get that little nasty bearing out there. But yeah, just so if you want to get it out in the future and you've got a arc welder or something, just weld that like I showed you, and that popped off at one good solid knock. I've just put this through the water blaster, and you can see the amount of tar and rubbish that's on here, just not coming off. So I may as well get into the sandblaster now, and then we'll see what this looks like afterwards. I just want you to see these forks and how bad they are. This has just come out unbelievably well. Really has. These ones are yet to go in, but not a bad for a trial so far. That's a good start. That just took me an hour maybe. Now that I can see what's the wood for the trees here, this bolt was missing. Now this bolt is pretty integral in stabilizing the rear swing arm axle or pin or whatever you want to call it, and locks it down, pushes it against the side. Now there are some that have actually gone and engineered 2 more points on either side to stop any sideways rock. That's fine, but I suspect with a good, fairly new bush and a pin that isn't worn, this should be adequate. But we'll be able to tell now as I lock this down. You see, as I rock it back and forward, there's just no play. There's no play in this. That's brilliant. Frame is getting ready for sandblasting. Out with the old. Not sure where this happened. This could have been an accident that had taken place.